fear's probably dying with no one knowing of any contribution I'd ever made to creative music. But that's cool because I made an album already that I'm so proud of that, you know, if I died tomorrow, touch words, you know, I would still feel fulfilled in a different way.
The world is yours, and I'ma do it for all my niggas and all my haters who talking like we ain't all in and we ain't getting paper. No, I'm in my zone, and no, we not faking. Ride for my niggas all day, all day. I'ma die for my city all day. Oh, the world is crazy these days. Maybe seem kinda strange to a nigga like me. My mama told me, thank God, keep my head in the game. What's the G off in this game? Got a nigga like me. I see this shit as clear as day. Even in my sleep. And so I pull out my chain. Be the fresh I can be. So I hate to stay off in your lane. Now you can't do it like me. I'll be the coolest on the block. It's your boy, Jay. This for all my shorties that be getting money. This for all my niggas that be getting money. In this generation, ain't no hesitation. Wake up in the morning, you know I be on it. Living for the moment, you know I be on it. I'm crowd surfing, ain't no denying the high performance. Fuck a hater, try to tell me how to be now. Judging me on style, vocabulary, performance, not ordinary, original. Tell the haters simmer down. Focus on this life that I'm living now. Living now.
Yeah, y'all, what's up? It's your man, T to the O to the P, and welcome back to another episode of the Top Cast. This is the second installment of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and tonight, my guest is none other than Moto Power, also known as Major Banks on Instagram. And this evening, we're going to have a conversation with you guys about your finances, because a lot of these dudes just tell you to get money, but they don't really tell you how to really go about getting it. And so I invited Moto Power on because he's next to motherfuckers like Jerome Powell and the Money Printer, and he could really give you the inside scoop on what's going on and what you need to do to prepare for the future. So thanks for coming through, Moto. Glad to have you, bro. I appreciate it. Could you give the folks a brief introduction of who you are and what you're about?
What's up, people? This Moto Power, the urban philosopher. I started off on YouTube many years ago, mainly talking about manosphere type information. But since then, since time has passed, I've evolved myself, and my focus has been initiated more towards achieving financial freedom and having great life experiences. So, I just like to live life and enjoy myself. And I'm very knowledgeable in regards to how the financial markets work and Federal Reserve monetary policy. And I am a investor. I'm heavily involved in crypto, the yield farming, as well as Bitcoin mining, real estate, and some other stocks and other assets as well. So that's just a little summarization about me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Indeed. I definitely had to get you on the show because you're one of the most knowledgeable brothers in regards to finances that I've had the pleasure of interacting with and meeting through social media. And you're one of the very few people who I can actually have a conversation with about finances, whether it's a long conversation or a short conversation, and I can learn something from. And also, I know that you understand what I'm saying, at least when I'm saying what I'm saying is correct. Right now, the CPI index came back recently at over 6%, which has not happened for like 30 years. So my first question is, are we seeing inflation or are we seeing currency deflation? And what's the difference? Because I know a lot of Black people don't really understand how money works. Could you go into that for us, Moto?
Yeah, so what we're seeing right now is hyperinflation. The Federal Reserve Bank, which is a private institution not controlled at all by the United States federal government, their allegedly target rate that they say that they shoot for a goal is 2% maximum inflation rate. But now we have 4 times that amount with 6%. So the more money they print this year alone, in the year 2021, 34% of all of the money that's ever been printed by the Federal Reserve Bank was printed this year. So our currency has been heavily devalued. All of the stimulus checks the Negroes think they're getting and things of that nature, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Everything is getting more and more expensive. So at 6% inflation rate, if we continue this inflation rate of 6% 10 years from now, that means everything will cost 6% more. That your hamburger, your Black and Miles, your t-shirts, whatever you buy will be 60% more in 10 years because of the 6% inflation rate that we have. And the Federal Reserve Bank started on Jekyll's Island in the state of Georgia to eliminate the gold standard in banking because many years ago, banks could only print or have enough money to loan out. It was a cap that was based on the amount of gold that they held in their gold reserve. Now they don't have to have any of that at all. So they can print. They're printing money that's based off of nothing and making money and charging people interest of it to loan out. Do you know that if everyone in the world, in the central banking system, were to make a bank run and try to withdraw capital, that banks don't even have 5 to 10 cents, a damn dime on every $100 that they have in circulation? So a lot of what we see in our actual checkings and savings accounts is all a number on the computer screen. It's not really there. The FDIC can only insure up to about maybe 60 cents per $100 in circulation right now. So what we have and what we're experiencing and what it seems like the trajectory that will happen is stagflation, where we have rapid inflation with no growth. And we also have an energy crisis that's contributing to that. I think the idiot that's in the White House right now, he just released some oil reserve to try to increase the supply because the demand is high. A lot of holiday travel, people are saying, fuck the pandemic, people are out moving around. So what we're having is an energy crisis. So if you have higher oil prices, and there is an estimated, there's been estimates that oil may be $150 per barrel next year. So if you have 6% inflation right now, if oil were to get to $150 a barrel next year, that number could be damn near double. It could be really, really bad economically. So that's why, when we talk about things such as cryptocurrency, which is a decentralized currency, not controlled by the idiots at the top, it's heavily needed.
Indeed. A lot of these guys are young, 30 and under. And a lot of them are younger than I am. I'm just 45 and I'll be 46 here soon. But a lot of these guys, they weren't alive in the 70s and the 80s during the Reagan era to see, how bad it could be, how bad this economy could get. And some of them only really got a taste of it in 2008. But taking into consideration what you said about how the money supply increased just in 2021 by 34%, Allegedly, hyperinflation is 50% per month on a consistent basis. And if you said that the money supply increased by 34% in just 2021, so correct me if I'm wrong, right? That's 30% added on to what would previously have been 100% of the supply. So we now at 134%, which means the value of that 100% was lessened by a third. Does that make sense mathematically?
Exactly, and that's what's going on. That's why we're seeing the hyperinflation. Well, the U.S. dollar is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. If this keeps up, one day in the future, the U.S. dollar, we could have a situation like Venezuela or Zimbabwe, where the currency is basically worthless. I hear a lot of elderly people when I went back home to my home state during Thanksgiving. They talked about food prices, how expensive things were. A damn turkey is like $50 now. A loaf of bread could be $8, $9 in some places. Sugar, coffee, everything is up. I think lumber is up over 300% year to date. Lumber is up 300% year to date. Coal is up. Natural gas is up. So I think everything is through the roof price wise. People do not understand the magnitude of what's going on. And when it rains, it's gonna pour, goddamn.
Yeah, I don't think that people are really paying attention, because you just said earlier also that the target inflation goal for the Fed is 2%, but we looking at just over 6%, just under 6.5%, which means that's 2%. That's like a 200% increase to go from 2% to 6%.
It is. That's crazy.
So that would qualify as hyperinflation.
It is, exactly, because what you're experiencing now is inflation with no growth. Because people wages and salaries are not increasing, but yet the price of everything is increasing.
Exactly. So you get the assets going up, but people's wages are not going up. And a lot of folks don't really understand what inflation really is. They don't understand that inflation, I've said to people before, whether they want to accept it or not, they slaves in this country. And one of the reasons why I say that is because if the price of assets is going up, but your wages are not going up to meet that, then essentially your time is being stolen from you. And that's what inflation really is. It's theft of your time to the benefit of someone else and to the detriment of yourself. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Yes, I do think I really, really agree with that statement. And I think I'm like, man, I wish I had what I had 10 years ago. As far as money, I wish I had what I had now 10 years ago. It would go a lot longer. I think someone was telling me, I was having a conversation with someone, and they were stating they was like, man, you damn near have to be balling just to have a decent quality of life. Every city, the cost of living is tremendously increased. Throughout every major city, you're talking a 1-bedroom apartment, 1,600 a month in some of these places. Cities like Atlanta, DC, inflation. And actually, Atlanta led the United States in inflation as far as the cost of living increase, more than New York, LA, and Miami. And I was heavily surprised by it.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to touch on is, and when it comes to inflation, the denominator or what you price things in makes a big difference. So, for example, a lot of people who own stocks and real estate think that they're making a lot of money, or that they've been making a lot of money since 2020, because real estate done went up 25%, stocks is going up you know. But when you consider the denominator being the dollar, I find that a lot of people, they just look at it as I'm getting richer, but in reality they don't really understand that they're actually getting poorer because the denominator, which is the dollar, is being devalued.
Yeah, you're right
And
about that. And the thing is, though, having it in cash is worthless because they have to put it in some form of an asset like real estate or stock because the stock market is so inflated right now. You're talking companies, the average company in the some of these companies throughout the S&P 500 have price earning ratios of like 60. That's saying that's equivalent to someone saying that, oh, I'm going to buy a new car and I'm going to pay 60% more, so 60 times more than what it's actually worth on paper at that particular moment. So having it in cash right now, people that have think it just putting it in the savings account are losing. So the thing is, when they put it in the asset like the stock, say the S&P 500 or real estate, instead of losing the value in cash through rapid inflation, their assets to the money that they're putting inside of that hard asset, such as real estate, is going up over time. But they're not, like you said, they're not really getting richer at all. Their money, they're just not losing the value of their money as fast by having it sit in cash.
yeah, cash is not a hard asset. And the reason why it's not a hard asset is because the Fed, the government, whatever you want to call them, the money printers, they have the ability to increase or decrease the money supply at their whim, which is why I try to explain to people, when you see these guys on Instagram or social media and they holding up a brick of money and they doing the money phone thing, why you should look at them and have pity for them because they think that they got a lot. When in reality, they don't really have anything but a piece of paper that's a promise. And like you said earlier, the dollar is no longer backed by gold. So what is it really worth? And in all honesty, the dollar is really backed by trust and nothing else. Do you have any comment to offer in regard to that?
Oh yeah, with the U.S. dollar right now, it's really they're printing money that's based off of nothing, and they're using all this fractional lending. The lending it, they make money off of loans. There's different incidences that can be traced to the Federal Reserve Bank um, using financing wars, making money from war. This is real, real, real deep stuff when you think about the federal. So when I hear people just have normal talking points in regards to politics, I'm like, hey, you need to get mad at Powell or somebody like that. He has way more power than Trump or Biden or Clinton, Obama, or any president. If you really wanted to be angry about somebody, be mad at them. For real.
Exactly. The next thing I wanted to ask you about, I consider myself to be financially, functionally literate, meaning that I have a slight understanding of what's going on, but I don't have a real in-depth knowledge of what's going on. So a lot of people don't really understand how money and banks work. And from what I understand, the Fed doesn't actually print money. What they do is they print bonds, which are reserve, like bank reserves. And how the money is actually created is when you go into the bank and let's say I deposit $100, and then the bank takes 90 of those $100 and loans it back out. And it's not until then that extra $90 comes into existence. Is that correct? Or
Exactly. And one of the things that they're talking about now, when you listen to Powell spew his rhetoric, is they say that they're going to start tapering. They're going to stop the buyback process. They're going to stop issuing not as many bonds, and they're going to start tapering off that process. That's what they say. But with the Fed, you know how that goes. But and what since they inflated the markets because they control it, they eventually the Fed also they control the federal funds rate, the interest rates. They are going to have to be they're going to be forced to lower rates. And when they lower rates, and I predicted this would happen in 2022, they're going to have to at this rate. I believe that they pumped the market up so high that when it does crash, and we do have say a 30% correction, the crash won't be as bad. So that's the play that I think that they're doing at this moment in time. And like you were saying with the bonds market is such a powerful tool, but it's being manipulated so much that it's kind of hard to gauge like it used to be. I remember back in 2019, they had a yield curve inversion. And you know how the bonds market works. When bond prices rise, bond yields fall. So when higher bond yields fall below lower bond yields, it causes a yield curve inversion. So for example, you have 10-year, 2-year bond yields, 5-year bond yields, 10-year yields, 30-year yields. So the 10-year bond yield inverted with the 3-year bond yield. So we had a yield curve inversion in the summer of 2019. And it was a big deal, Bloomberg, CNBC, even some of the main controlled sheet media outlets talked about this for a while, that this is a historical recessionary indicator. And key to date, the summer of 2019, you have a yield curve inversion. So that means that money, trillions of dollars in capital was being moved to safety. Then you had people like Warren Buffett selling their stocks a couple of months after, and certain political leaders, senators and congressmen who got caught selling ahead of time because they know that this shit was planned and it was going to happen. Someone asked me 2019 around November, December, they like, hey man, should I put some money in the stock market? I'm seeing this breaking all-time high. I said, no, a recession is coming. They said, how did you know that? I'm like, historically speaking, there was a yield curve inversion a few months ago. And I'm also watching certain people, large hedge fund managers, people like Buffett and Ray Dalio and Steve Cohen, liquidate their assets. So something is coming. Every decade or so, we have to have these cycles. We have to be pulled back down, a major pullback. That's how the rich get richer.
Indeed. And I think a lot of people are starting to slowly wake up to the fact that we basically getting screwed over by the rich people. They keep getting richer and we keep getting poorer. And not only that, but I'm pretty sure by now a lot of people can see that the middle class has basically been decimated in this country. Earlier, I spoke about inflation and currency devaluation. Is there a difference? And if so, what is the difference?
What we have going on with inflation and currency evaluation, it's pretty much one and the same. Because as inflation increases, the currency decreases, the value of the currency. I think I sent that post to you earlier this week about the price of a turkey comparison to this time last year to this year. A turkey went up from $21 to about $50. So with the inflation going up, as you can see, the US dollar is becoming worthless, and it will eventually crash at some point. That's why I believe the thing that can save society as we know it is cryptocurrency. I really believe that, because the difference between, say, for example, Bitcoin and the US dollar. The US dollar, they can print, and they still continuing to print, making money even worthless, and causing inflation to get higher. The difference between fiat currency and cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, that is a set number of coins that will be put into circulation. And then there is a cap. That is what it was designed to do. That is why I am involved in mining this shit, because eventually it will pay off tremendously. Because fiat currency, they can keep putting money into circulation. Cryptocurrency is a cap. So it's not, that's why you see cryptocurrency and gold striking out. It's an inflationary hedge. And that is what we're witnessing. And long term, I believe that Bitcoin will eventually be $1 million a coin. I'm calling it. I'm telling you. Give it 10 years.
I think if it plays out like it's been playing out, because you hear a lot of folks who don't really know a lot about crypto or don't really read the technical analysis charts. If you're in doubt about how Bitcoin is gonna probably go, just zoom out and look at the long-term overall performance. And what you will notice is that it's continually going up to the right, and it's volatile the entire way, but it's continued to go up and right. It hasn't gone up to the right and then back down to zero. And I agree with what you postulate. And the reason why I agree with it is because you're not the only person I've heard said that. And you and I both know, as far as fiat currency goes, and if you guys don't know what fiat currency is, it's basically currency that's been decreed to be legal tender and to be used in any particular society. So the dollars that you have in your pocket, no matter what the denomination they are, tens, 20s, hundreds, or 50s, they only are money because somebody else said so, but not because they actually have any value, intrinsic or otherwise. And really, money is just a means to facilitate exchange in a frictionless or less frictional way. So it's easier to exchange dollar bills than it is for me and Moto to exchange my chickens for his oranges. Because, like, how many chickens for how many oranges? You understand what I'm getting at? But one of the most successful hedge fund managers, he even worked for George Soros, if I ain't mistaken, Stanley Druckenmiller, just said recently that crypto, Bitcoin specifically, in all likelihood, will become the underpinning of, or will become at the least the global reserve asset, with the dollar staying the global reserve currency. Because after all, crypto is denominated in dollars. And if Bitcoin becomes the global reserve asset, being that it's denominated in dollars, the more it's spread out, the more it's going to spread the dollar out. However, that doesn't mean that the dollar is going to get stronger in terms of value. It'll just get stronger in terms of overall use. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's exactly what will be happening. And I can see in the future, instead of a dollar, we would spend Satoshis.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. The only drawback to that line of thought for me is that Bitcoin has to be the actual pure asset. Bitcoin has to be distributed among the entire population of people. And from what I can see, just looking at somebody like Michael Saylor and MicroStrategies, he's sitting on 115,000 Bitcoin. That means he denies millions and millions of people access to it unless they get it by proxy, like his, MicroStrategy stock. How is that going to work? Taking what I just said into consideration.
You mean, how is it going to work? Because he's hoarding a certain number of coins in the circulation.
Well, what I'm basically getting at is you got guys like Michael Saylor, the guy from Reuters. A lot of these people are holding on to a big chunk of the supply. So basically, it's only 21 million Bitcoin. We both agree with that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in order for everybody to have some Bitcoin, you can only have a certain amount. Do you agree with that?
That's true.
Okay, so if you got one whole Bitcoin, you, Moto Power, got one whole Bitcoin, that means everybody else would be denied their share because you got the majority of it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In other words, your one Bitcoin should be split out between so many people. But if you the only person who holding that one Bitcoin, then that means everybody else won't be able to get it in order to be able to spend Satoshis. You understand what I'm saying?
You see, what is happening, I think, will be more complex is the usage of yield farming. And that is where, say, you have a certain amount of Bitcoin or stable coin, and you're providing liquidity to the market and you're making money off of interest from the coins that you're lending out. So I think that people in the future that are hold corners, that will be a consistent strategy. So it'll kind of be like people that are hold corners or people who control certain amounts of cryptocurrency can basically be like their own financial institution.
Interesting. Yeah, what I'm trying to figure is, in order for not in order for Bitcoin to become the global reserve asset or even the currency, but if it's to become the global reserve currency and work like the dollar, how is everybody going to get access to some BTC? Is what I'm getting at. If you understand what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Could you tell the audience what is the difference between, because some people believe that quantitative easing is inflation, but I'm not exactly sure that it is. Could you explain to me and to the audience exactly what is quantitative easing and how is that different than money printing?
Quantitative easing is very similar to money printing, and it can cause inflation. We've been in QE for the last 2 years or so during the pandemic. What normally in the past, a natural correction cycle in the financial markets will last at least a year or so. But we only had really about a month and a half of correction, relatively short. And then out of nowhere, we see the QE in the monetary policy because the goal, the so-called goal of the Federal Reserve Bank is to have um, maximum financial stability and maximum employment rate. That is what they are allegedly are supposed to provide. But eventually, the train will be derailed because they control the circulation and the supply of money. And it only benefits a small group of people at the top and strews over the masses. And like you said before, in regards to the middle class at some point is on the verge of being eliminated.
Yeah, for all of those who did not see that movie Ready Player One and haven't really been paying attention to the messages that we see in a lot of these movies, like The Walking Dead, all kinds of movies like that, because I believe there's a lot of messages in movies. But if you haven't seen movies like Ready Player One, you should check that movie out, because I think that it's speaking to what's possibly going to be happening coming here in the future, considering the fact that basically we living in the collapse that a lot of people are talking about, and we living in the collapse of the American empire. And all currencies, all fiat currencies eventually go to zero. And I don't think that the dollar is going to escape that fate. It's just going to be the last one to go. And right now we in a really, really, we in a very interesting time and a very dangerous time simultaneously, because it's a time of great change. And with that, I would like to lead into crypto. And what are your thoughts on the effect that Bitcoin is having now, and what do you predict the effect of Bitcoin going into the future?
What I'm seeing with cryptocurrency, the good thing is it seems like the younger generation, I mean, you got, teenagers, 11, 12, 13-year olds, they're more hip to the game and what's going on, and they see it and understand it tremendously better than a lot of older people who are stuck in their ways. I try to even tell people in my family about about cryptocurrency and why they need to start investing and getting on board. And they're like, oh, I just put it in the bank. Well, I'm like, the money that you're putting in the bank is you've lost 6% if you've had it in a savings account. They have, because even if you have, the normal savings account gives 2 to 3% interest, you've lost money if you kept it in the bank. So the key is that people should start investing in gold and get into cryptocurrency because it is the future. There are so many ways that a lot of people are not aware of, just like I spoke about the yield farming. The yield farming, you can literally make easy money. Your money is working for you without doing anything, just by providing that liquidity to the market. About 65, 70,000 dollars US can yield you an average of 10 to 12,000 a month without doing anything from yield farming. So what you're doing, provided using your cryptocurrency that you own, and you're providing liquidity to the market and making money off of the interest of the crypto that you're lending out. And that's something that's going on that a lot of people do not understand, that will not last forever. But at the same, because a lot of the masses haven't discovered it, or a lot of people think that it's too complicated, or they may buy and sell Bitcoin, or day trade it, or swing trade it, or long term invest in it. And that's good as well too. But at the same time, there's so many avenues to make money, to get paid easily. I got buddies making 150, 200,000 a month doing nothing, just off of yield farm.
Now you said that if folks left their money in the bank, that they would lose 6%. Explain to them how exactly that works, and why they don't need to have their money in the bank if they haven't already understood our points about inflation.
Yeah, you see, even say, for example, if a person was saving that money every time they get paid, they put a certain amount to pay bills here, then they may fuck off a little bit there, then they put the rest of it in savings. They're losing money every year. So say a person, an individual who's not diversified their resources, meaning buying crypto or some type of hard asset, gold or real estate or something. They just put money, say every year. They say they put, let me think of a number. Say I've start small with an even number for mathematical simplicity. We'll say that a person is saving 1,000 a year, for example. So at 6% inflation that we have right now, that means that the currency would be diluted 60% 10 years from now. So with them saving and holding on to $1,000, for example, $1,000 every year for the next 10 years, that means that they will have lost $6,000 of that. You know what I'm saying? In comparison, when they could have put it in
Oh
Bitcoin.
yeah, I understand. I understand totally. I'm totally hip to the math, and that's what I've been trying to scream at these dudes. And also, I want to touch on your point about buying assets. You want to buy hard assets, and you want to buy the hardest assets you can find. To date, Bitcoin, from my understanding, is the hardest asset. It's even harder than gold. It's harder than real estate, and it's more liquid than both. But I would suggest, because those are the top 3 hard assets, that's where you park the majority of your money that you look to save in. Because what you guys need to understand, and a lot of us Negroes, we don't think long term. You have to come to understanding and an appreciation of delayed gratification, because that's essentially what investing is. I'm saving now for later consumption in the future. A lot of us don't think about these things. And it's really a tragedy, because this is the kind of things that the manosphere should be teaching you dudes, because this is way, way more fucking important than how much pussy you go get. Especially because them chicks ain't paying you. But
that's real, man. Because one thing that I'm kind of tired of, because some of these cats, man, I've been listening to, and seeing on YouTube for years now. I'm like, we have to grow. Of course, okay, a bitch ain't shit. Then what? We have to grow beyond focusing on female nature. Female nature ain't gonna pay the bills. You know what I'm saying?
That's facts. And once you done figured out what female nature is and what it's all about, then I go right back to the question that you just posed. What's next?
Exactly, man. That's why I think that unfortunately a lot of brothers are not using their large platforms to educate people, because they can be helping a lot of people because they have a large following by giving them information. And just like you stated with delayed gratification, it took me about at least 10 to 12 years to get to where I'm at now. So I'm in my 30s, and I tell a lot of younger guys that it takes time. So even when investing, like some of the Bitcoin mining and stuff that I'm doing, the machines are like that I'm looking at with Compass mining, like maybe like 5,500, 6,000 on the low end. But those mining, I'm thinking 10 years from now, 10, 15 years, and I'm not thinking about tomorrow, because I know that mining it'll put me way ahead of the curve, because I see what things are going on. So I know it's a delayed gratification and patience process. And of course, the banks are gonna fuck with it. They're gonna create volatility and price swing to shake out the weak hands.
Exactly. I love when there's blood in the street and shit get cheap, because it's an opportunity for me to buy low and watch it increase. Because when I said earlier that Bitcoin is probably the hardest asset, what a lot of you folks don't know is the same shit that you could do with real estate, you could do with Bitcoin, but you could do it a lot easier, a lot more seamlessly, and with less complications. So I'll give you an example. You could go out and buy some real estate right now, but how long will it take for you to draw the equity out of it? But if I go buy some Bitcoin right now, the same amount, I could draw the equity out of it immediately and start stacking more Bitcoin, because it's such a hard and valuable asset that I can go and take a 50% loan to value ratio. So I'll give you an example. Let's say right now Bitcoin was worth 120,000 a coin. I could go borrow 60,000 against that Bitcoin, right? Wait for the Bitcoin to drop from 120 to 80 and drop 30 of that 60 I just borrowed on it, and wait for it to go back up to 120. Then pay my loan back, and I got more Bitcoin than I started with. So all that to say, when it comes to finances, the reason why I agree that Bitcoin and, you know, digital assets, period, cryptocurrency, I just call it crypto, is the future, is because it's a revolutionary, once in a lifetime change to the financial structure, the entirety of it. It's not unlike how the internet was in the beginning when it first started. That's really what we witnessing, I think, when it comes to this crypto. What you think about that, Moto?
I agree 1000%. And it's so good to be on the ground level because, like you said, this is equivalent to the internet right now as we speak. And that's why the government, they're trying to figure out ways to get their hands on it, to get their cut of it, to try to fuck with it and tax it and tax assets and things of that nature. Um, I think that they had some legislation that they were proposing. They were saying they would have to go back to the drawing board, and it may take them years to figure this out. Because even like with the yield farming and stuff like that I do not liquidate that into US dollars. I keep it in crypto.
Exactly. And a lot of folks don't know that, you know, they got these crypto ATMs out here where you could go and buy under a certain amount of Bitcoin and you don't have to KYC to do it. I do it all the time.
Exactly. And it makes a lot of sense. And that's why it's a rapper, Money Man. He is getting paid all of his shows. Promoters are paying him. He said he does not want fiat currency for performances. They have to pay him in Bitcoin now.
And it's not that I'm trying to hide anything or anything like that. You know, I don't have an issue with paying, you know, my just due in taxes, but what the opportunity that Bitcoin provides is not unlike the opportunity that gold and real estate provides, with the exception that it's better than gold in as far as you can't seize it like how gold's been seized and the gold standard has been terminated, you know, in American history in the 1930s and in the 1970s. So that's one of the things that makes Bitcoin better than gold. Another thing that makes Bitcoin better than gold is a lot of you young black guys who are investors, you don't understand how gold works. Gold is not meant to make you wealthy. It's meant to maintain the purchasing power of the wealth that you store in it. Where Bitcoin is totally different. It's basically essentially built to absorb all of the inflation that they trying to shove up our behinds and waste our time. And so I say that to say, you know, you shouldn't be stuck on one side of the fence or the other, and that you should make an allocation to both. And you did speak about mining Bitcoin. You care to elaborate a little bit more, because I'm familiar with what mining is, and there's actually several different methods of mining, you know, depending on what blockchain you mining. But you mind sharing with the audience some information about crypto mining, and is it a good business idea? How lucrative is it? You know, what all you know goes into the process?
Yes, cryptocurrency mining is a very lucrative opportunity, in particular, especially for those of us right here in North America, primarily due to the fact that China has outlawed and banned Bitcoin mining in their country. So that's created heavy demand for the services. And the company that I'm been using is Compass Mining. I'm also considering buying some machines from overseas themselves and actually storing those in a cannabis facility warehouse in California to mine as well with that. But there's certain different factors, the output of electricity that can affect your cost, you know, how many kilowatts or how many voltage of electricity and what's the rate that can influence the cost differences of mining. But with mining, you have to think long term. long, 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 long term. So I'm thinking 10 years from now. You know, I'm thinking actually mining it, being a part of that process is historical. And like we were saying earlier, with cryptocurrency, it is outpaced percentage-wise every asset this year tremendously.
Shit, Bitcoin just did 600, almost 700%. Just Bitcoin.
For real.
Just did
For real.
almost 700% since 2020,
For
since March of
real.
2020. So I can't even get excited about stocks. I can't even get excited about real estate. And it's because I understand something very, very fundamental that most people probably don't understand. And it's that software programs is eating up everything. So like when I grew up, we used to have damn, what the hell they call it? Like index cards when you go to the library. I can't even remember the name of the shits. And we used to look at pictures and shit on microfiche. And then we got Polaroid cameras. And then that switched to digital cameras. And now you could literally snap thousands and thousands of pictures for free. I remember you used to have to go get them shits developed at Kodak, and it used to cost $30. The point I'm making is that technology is making shit cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And so folks should understand that it's not going to be a bad thing that, you know, like your jobs is going away, that things are going to get cheaper. Even this inflation that we going through, none of this shit is a bad thing. But you got to prepare yourself to go into the new system that we moving into. And crypto is the monetary portion of that. Not only that, but in regards to you talking about mining, I don't think a lot of black people realize, because I see white guys doing it now, where they are using debt to finance buying mining machines to mine stuff like Bitcoin, to hold it, to make a derivative out of it, so that other people can have access to Bitcoin. Are you familiar with any crypto mining companies on the stock exchange?
I haven't. I think so. Like crypto.com. I think
No,
that's.
I mean, like you got to check out. There's a crypto mining company called Hut8 and another one called ClearSpark. What they do is exactly what you was just talking about doing. They actually mine Bitcoin. But that's what you could think of them like gold miners, like a gold mining company. So they mine Bitcoin, but they're not going to be selling it because its value is as valuable as it is. You're just going to be buying into that mining company, that crypto mining company. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah, because of the actual buy stock and the raised capital. So the CEOs of those mining companies are going public with the companies to initiate shareholders, which is also a good idea too. You know, it does make sense because as these mining companies continue to grow and more investors, why not actually own a percentage of the mining company? But I think that at the same time, it's more lucrative to actually get into the mining aspect of itself.
Indeed. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the blockchain, the Helium network blockchain, but that's also a cryptocurrency that could be mined. And if you care to do so, take a look into it, because it's a little cheaper to get into and easier to get into than Bitcoin. So it's just something that you could take a look into. But before we get out of here, is there anything else that you wanted to say to the people in regards to finances or crypto?
Yes, people get involved into cryptocurrency, started educating yourselves. You know, knowledge is power. And with the financial markets, so much information is coming every day. Every day, the circumstances are changing. So you have to stay engaged intellectually. Feed your mind. Focus on what really matters. Stop thinking about bitches and stupid shit and focus on what really matters to put yourself and your family in a position where you will be free. Because if this does not change, because a lot of our people, for example, um, I was on what's that blog site, Shade Room, and they put up a post about Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin mining, and all of the. I read the comments, and it was sad because a lot of people they were like, "What the fuck is that? This shit is like I don't understand this shit." But they what they're doing, they're spoon feeding Negroes a lot of bullshit, keeping them distracted, keeping their mind focused on some dumb shit that's going on that means nothing. So black people as a whole will not be focused and get left behind. There's a study that financial study that predicted that the average black household net worth by the year 2040 will be $0, and that's due to automation of jobs through computers and machineries, as well as cryptocurrency. A lot of our people are not investing at all. So get into crypto. Start learning financial literacy. Learn how the federal funds works. Learn how what the Federal Reserve Bank does. I suggest everyone read a book called The Creature from Jekyll's Island. The Creature from Jekyll's Island. It gives you the whole backstory and origin, an example of bailouts and how every time there's a bailout during a recession, the taxpayers take a brunt of that shit. Whether it be a direct tax hike or the hidden tax, inflation. Inflation is a hidden tax, and that's what's happening today. So the stimulus money and all this other bullshit and government benefits, the people are paying for it through inflation, the hidden tax.
And that's facts. Matter of fact, that first $1,200 that they gave out, if you had it invested in Bitcoin back in March 2020, that $1,200 would be about $8,000 right now. But my closing message to you guys is we moving into the future. No matter how much you may not want it to happen, it's gonna happen. It's very difficult for one person to stand in front of an avalanche and to stop it. I don't think that you can. And you can't, really worry about too much about what snowflake is going to make it, is going to trigger the avalanche, but know that it's coming. We're going to be moving into a new financial system. Like people like to say, it's a new world. Like you youngsters tell us, the world is new now. Well, we get ready to go into some even newer shit. So, like my grandparents used to tell me, don't be afraid of change because it's perpetual. Just get prepared the best that you can. Crypto is definitely going to be the wave. I would advise you guys to get as financially literate as possible and follow the money. I'm following the money and I'm making bets. Work hard, spend what you have to, but only what you need to, and invest the rest. Don't save your money in the bank because you're going to get, you'll be mad at a motherfucker when you find out that your $100 is now only $94 a year later because inflation is 6%. But in reality, they just tell us that it's 6% because if you look at the CPI and you look at what they measure compared to the shit that you actually buy, inflation is probably somewhere around 15 to 25%, which is like 15 cents to a quarter on a dollar. So keep that in mind. Guys, learn and listen up. Check out Moto Power, aka Major Banks. I got his Instagram information in the video description below. Right now, I just put in the chat his YouTube handle. I will add that to the video description, his YouTube channel information to the video description after the video. I really appreciate you for coming through, Moto, and sharing this information with these guys, because it's much, much more valuable than, what they hearing about these women, even though, niggas like fuckery as much as they could say about these motherfucking chicks.
Exactly. Well, I think certain people have figured out that talking about bitches all day is lucrative.
Yeah, to me, it reminds me of chicks and hair weave, because they have about as much value. And I personally, I don't have a lot of the problems that a lot of these guys go through. Although I can't understand and sympathize with them. I just ain't gonna go through it because I'm a different kind of person. That's his YouTube handle right there on the screen. Make sure you subscribe to his page. Got some good information. Again, thanks, Moto, for coming through, man. I really appreciate you coming through for episode number 2. You officially in the league. And I think it's a very important conversation that we just had. And I would like to invite you back in the future, but the door is always open.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Keep me posted.
Indeed. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the Topcast. Don't forget, subscribe to Moto Power on YouTube. Follow him on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram too. I got 2 pages, the Incredible T.O.P and the Topcast Instagram page. You can catch episodes of the Topcast on Anchor Podcast or your favorite podcast outlet. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, don't worry about it. Your auntie did it for you. Until next time, peace. Thanks, Moto.
But the day ain't the same. So I'ma ride for the city. I die for the city. Straight from the city.
Yeah, waking up in the morning. Weekend weather. Fly birds outside yawning. Last night was on and popping. Kept the song to the next one. I pause for a second. I'm focused. Back got the flow tip. Back got the potion. Earth, wind, and fire. Moms, pops at it per brand. But it don't get no better. Stack cheddar on the regular. NY down to NC, playing that bigger dog. Despite the niggas right, I is back on my grind. A fist full of dollars, I'm on fire. Flow like rivers now, tigers with stripes like a tiger. Speech for my kinfolk admire. People that get dough, I'm all about the checks, Nikes. Dreaming about who next up, broken in that. I cruise through the city, passing extras. Director yelling action. Fly mommies popping bottles, shots full of armor. I took a glance at a fly lady. I cruise like a hustler to the paper, it's only nature. Shorty got some nice racks on racks and a smooth money maker, yeah.
Got me feeling like Nas in my book of rhymes. You play in the orchestra, bet that you can feel these lines. With my mind reminiscing, JGI spitting subliminal lines, painting pictures of moments in time. Reminiscing, summarizing the 20th song. And got a vision of a rebel standing next to God. Yo, that's a vision of a devil falling from the sky. And why? Nigga, check my level when I'm on the grind. Ahead of my time, know I'm kinda like fighting for my life in the dark, and ain't no sign of light. Evolution in your life, choosing wrong and right. In 21-9, niggas still be trying to sound alike, trying to do it big and live the style of life. Style sincere like Nasir, but all I need's one mic. Look into the eyes of a little nigga on the grind. Sparks like my rim tire when I pull up on the block. I try to tell you it's the sus, nigga. You say you do it all yourself, and that's what's up, nigga. I try to hit you to the plan, let you know that I'm the man. Got my city with me everywhere we go. Got the fam, 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 got the fam. feeling so good. Take a look, you can see what I need. Run around showing love to the whole hood. Who you know can do it like me? I'm just playing the game, but you know every day ain't the same. So I'ma ride for the city, I die for the city, straight from the city. Straight from the city.